Is Jarren Duran a realistic trade target for the Royals? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is another day of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. And you can also catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For the first-time listeners wondering how this channel works, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes with the link there, and then I also give you 60-second YouTube shorts after the games. But we also have the Locked On Royals postcast, which is hosted by Chance Lebo, and he broadcasts live about 15 to 20 minutes right after the game, and that goes into the weekend as well. So even if you are starving for Royals content over the weekend, wanting to get that instant reaction, you can count on Chance to go live right after the games. And even though tonight is an off night for the Royals, they'll be back for a huge series with Cleveland tomorrow. So look for Chance's content over the weekend. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. The trade deadline is now just a week away. So 7 days to figure out if you are a buyer, you're a seller, you're not going to do anything. It sounds like it's right around the corner, but really when you think about it, for trades to happen, 7 days is a long time because so many teams will take it up until the 31st before they make that first move, before they try to strike a deal with a seller, or if a buyer wants to go all in, or if a seller, wants to fully commit to having a fire sale. Like those teams might wait until the 31st. Not everybody's going to be making moves and making those transactions in the next day or two. It's possible. I'm never going to rule that out because it feels like when you get about a week out, that's when things really start to spin. Because you get into those situations where you've got a seller who might have a pitcher that's due to start this weekend, but they don't want to risk any injury there, and they don't want him to tank his value, so you get a deal done now. The Royals might be dealing with that with Seth Lugo. He's still scheduled to make one more start, and Vinny Pasquantino said yesterday how badly they want him to stay around, but it is up to them at the end of the day. They're going to have to keep winning games for the Royals to be buyers by next Thursday. But even if they are not all-in buyers, which I don't see that happening anyway. And that goes if they sweep the Guardians and sweep the Braves. I don't see them, making this an all-in type year. I still feel that they would buy, but they would buy a little bit more cautiously. They're not going to sell off every top prospect they have to try and go win a World Series this year. The goal is to get to the postseason, and you roll the dice and see if you can get hot at the right time. A blockbuster deal, though, that could include Lugo and could include somebody that would drastically help the Royals lineup, has been floated out there a few times. The ESPN writers have done some hypothetical trades. The Athletic has done some hypothetical trades. Ken Rosenthal always does a great piece on what he's hearing, if there's any rumors out there. And over the last handful of weeks, the Royals almost always pop up in Ken Rosenthal's What I'm Hearing article. And yesterday, it really caught my attention because this was coming off of the Royals' loss in Game 2 to Chicago. So it's not like they were riding a high. They weren't winning 5 or 6 in a row, and now they're going to pop back up in the national media. This was more so about what the Royals want to do at the deadline. We'll get it out of the way that it now no longer seems that they are a fit for Brian Reynolds. They're not matching up on what the Pirates would want. So it doesn't seem like you're going to have to worry about the Royals overpaying for Brian Reynolds and having to take on that contract. This, however, though, was very interesting to me. This was per Ken Rosenthal in his article yesterday. The athleticism of Boston Red Sox left fielder Jarren Duran makes him attractive to the Royals, as do his 3 additional years of club control. The Red Sox would not trade Duran for a pitcher who likely would amount to a rental. That's speaking of Lugo. but the Royals could sweeten the deal with prospects and teams targeting their young catching in particular. So let's cut right to it. Can Jarren Duran realistically be a Royal by this time next week? You had to factor in a couple of different things here. Number one, the Red Sox are in a playoff spot, and they already sold off one of their top players in Rafael Devers, a handful of weeks ago, probably over a month now. And Rafael Devers has not played that well for San Francisco, though at least he's open to playing first base, unlike his time in Boston. So you trade away Rafael Devers. That was really staggering to the rest of baseball. Why would they trade him at this point in the season when he had been on a hot streak? Boston wasn't completely out of it, and he was under contract. There was no rush to trade him. They could have waited a little bit longer, but they decided to do it then. So that's the first thing, being a playoff team and already trading away a top player on your roster. Jarren Duran is not having the same type of year he did last year. He was, an all-star MVP. He had a WAR that was near 9 when it was all said and done. I mean, he really burst onto the scene last year. But Boston didn't make the postseason. There were too many holes around him. So is that a player just 1 year removed from being one of the most valuable players in baseball with multiple years of control you're willing to move on from when you already traded Rafael Devers? And on top of that, would you be trading him to a team that's chasing you? So yes, the Royals would have to be giving up likely a Seth Lugo and prospects, but that's a deal that both sides could be a little bit hesitant on. You give away one of your top pitchers if you're the Royals and catching prospects for an outfielder, and yes, it helps you now and helps you in the future, but maybe those catching prospects could turn into something really special for Boston. That leads me to my second point. The Red Sox have Carlos Narvaez, and Carlos Narvaez is a 26-year-old rookie. He's getting, at least some votes, or probably will be getting some votes for Rookie of the Year. I don't expect him to win, but he's probably looked at as elite defensively as he is and what he's doing offensively as their catcher of the future. So if you're Boston, and Ken Rosenthal writes, they don't really want to trade Jarren Duran for a rental and that only, it would take other prospects. The unfortunate part for the Royals is their top prospects are catchers, at least position players. But the Royals do need to look into upgrades that would significantly boost their team. And not just for this year, but for next year. So looking at Boston, you've got a team that's ahead of you in a playoff spot, has traded away one of their top players. Second part to this, Seth Lugo is a rental. Maybe Chris Bubich could get that deal done, but it doesn't sound like the Royals want to move him because they view him as a part of their core next year. And they don't know if Seth Lugo will be back next year. He did say in the postgame yesterday he wants to be here. He loves it here, loves the clubhouse. That's a good thing to hear. But a lot of guys are going to say that in the middle of the season. When you get to free agency, things can always change. But this idea of Jarren Duran is a fun one to think about because I'm imagining Jarren Duran in left field. You've got Jack Caglione in right. If you can pick things up, that's an outfield that's far more respectable than it is right now. And is he the type of player that you go the extra mile to go and get? It doesn't feel like this is the year to do that, but this might be one of the times that he's available, one and only time he's available. I could be wrong on that, absolutely, as I said in yesterday's episode. The Red Sox also have a plethora of outfielders. They've got Rafaela in center. They just called up Roman Anthony, about a month ago, and he's a part of their future, right? They've also got Yoshida, though he's not really, I would say, a part of their future. And they've also got Duran out there in the outfield. I mean, it's incredibly crowded out there. There's about 4 or 5 guys they could play every single day, and I'm sure that they don't want to be taking at bats from guys like Roman Anthony. And Jarren Duran, though with the 3 years of control, is having a lesser year than he did last year, and he's nearing his age 30 season. He's got the 3 years of control, but he is 28. It's not old by any means, but if he was 25 with 5 years of control, that makes it a lot tougher to move him, even if it is a logjam out there in the outfield. I got no doubt in my mind that Jarren Duran is a possibility for the Royals. They probably have called about Jarren Duran. I don't believe the reporters would be saying these things if the Royals weren't interested. And the last glimmer of hope, if you are a big Jarren Duran, supporter here, you want him in Kansas City. The Royals have not shied away from going to those big names. I mean, they never really seriously entertained Juan Soto. They called about what the asking price would be. That ended right there. Anthony Santander, they were interested in. Jurickson Profar, they were interested. And Jarren Duran kind of fits that mold of a bigger name outfielder. And because they swung and missed in the offseason, this is another opportunity to do so. If it cost you Seth Lugo and, Blake Mitchell and another pitching prospect, is that a move you make? Let us know in the YouTube comments below. But I think you have to strongly consider it depending how this series goes against Cleveland and how the next series goes against Atlanta. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, is Hunter Harvey getting closer to returning? And if so, who's the odd man out in the bullpen? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Want to tell you about one of our newer sponsors here on the podcast, which is Gameday Hue. Gameday Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com with code MLB15. And I got 2 pairs of hats from them. You've seen me wear them in a couple of the podcasts lately. Super comfortable, great if you're going golfing. And I got a little golf glove as well. So I would say that the fit is super comfortable. The style is really good. And yeah, if you're not in the huge logos, you just want it to be simple, Gameday Hue is the place to go to. We're going to be talking now about the bullpen a little bit, shifting our focus from the trade deadline, though I'm sure tomorrow we're going to get abundance of mailbag questions. So that is a good time to remind everybody that if you want to be involved in tomorrow's episode, just leave your Royals question below on this YouTube video or look for my tweet later on this afternoon. Hunter Harvey, though, is a name we have not spoken about in a long, long time. There was no need to. Steven Cruz was called up when Hunter Harvey went on the IL, and Steven Cruz has been far better than I believe Hunter Harvey was ever going to be. But now you've got Hunter Harvey on his rehab assignment. He was pumping 99 in AA for Northwest Arkansas, so clearly he feels good, and we're probably going to see a rehab outing or two in Omaha, and then the Royals are going to be able to make that decision. And if you can have him for the last 2 months of the season, hey, it's better than trading for Hunter Harvey last year, and all you got out of him was 12 to 15 innings. I mean, there is still a chance he can bolster this bullpen and give this team some much needed added velocity. And at this point in the season, it's pretty easy to make room for Hunter Harvey. There have been multiple guys that have popped up on the IL. There have been, a handful of guys that have just not performed up to maybe what the Royals thought he could be or what the fan base thought he could be. And him being a right-hander, I don't believe overcomplicates things. I mean, think about who is out there in the Royals bullpen and who's getting some of the higher leverage innings. We know that Carlos Estevez is getting the 9th inning. He is going to be their closer, and unless they move him 7 days from now, he is going to be the closer for the rest of this year and next year. Lucas Erceg is their setup guy / fireman. They also have Steven Cruz that we just talked about moving into more of the higher leverage role. John Schreiber has been even better than he was last year. Angel Serpa is more of the medium leverage, but trying to just face lefties. You've also got, who am I leaving out here? Jonathan Bolin, who's more of your bulk guy. Sam Long, who throws in mop-up. This, to me, is a very easy decision for the Royals. If you want to keep an extra lefty in the bullpen because Daniel Lynch is on the IL, maybe you demote Jonathan Bolin for Hunter Harvey. Because Hunter Harvey's going to bring the power stuff again. And he's not going to be a bulk guy, but it gives you an extra higher leverage pitcher. And if he feels healthy, I got no reason to doubt that he can do what he was doing in April. That was powerful stuff. And he was going to be the seventh inning guy to set up Lucas Ursig and then Carlos Estevez. And that's what my focus is going to be. Can he keep the velocity up? And can he stay healthy for 2 months? That's not been a thing in Kansas City. He barely pitched last year and then wound up on the IL. This year, he barely pitched in April and then he wound up on the IL. If you can get 2 months from Hunter Harvey, who knows? Maybe it can be valuable. I mean, he's somebody who's a, pending free agent. He is going to be somebody that might get some interest because of the high-powered stuff, or maybe the Royals try to bring him back and say, we're only going to give you a 1-year deal, but if you can prove to us that you can stay healthy, we still feel that you're a valuable piece to the bullpen. And that can be exciting if the Royals start rattling off some wins here. If they have a good series in Cleveland, or against Cleveland, I should say, and then they have another series win against Atlanta, and then you get to the trade deadline, you add some pieces, and you get Hunter Harvey back. Well, think about getting Cole Reagans back a few weeks later. Think about having Michael Lorenzen back. And this team could be getting healthier at the right time. This could all be a pointless segment, though, if the Royals don't play well against Cleveland and don't play well against Atlanta. But it would be nice to get some reinforcements for the bullpen, because I do believe they have had some guys that they were really counting on get banged up recently. Daniel Lynch was somebody they were counting on to be more of a bulk / lefty specialist / 2-inning guy. And with him on the injured list, that opened up a spot for Sam Long. And I don't see Sam Long staying on the team much longer. Really, when Daniel Lynch gets healthy, that'll be the end of Sam Long in Kansas City. I also wouldn't hate to see Evan Sisk get another chance up in Kansas City. We've seen Andrew Hoffman get his chance in Kansas City. Hunter Harvey, though, if he can stay healthy, would be the best of that collection of names. That would be the biggest piece you could get back for the bullpen, just simply due to the high-powered stuff. To be able to throw 98, 99 with that power splitter that he's got, it gives the Royals some relief, no pun intended. It takes some stress off the later innings. It allows you to, mix and match a little bit differently in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, where we've seen before, and even in that Miami series, you throw Lucas Ursig in the 9th because you're trying to save Estevez for the 10th. It didn't work out when it was all said and done. But adding another name there, you can have Steven Cruz throw a high leverage inning, Hunter Harvey, John Schreiber, Ursig, Estevez. You've got more variety there, even though it's just one name. And again, it's all up in the air to me due to the fact that Hunter Harvey's not been a very reliable arm in terms of his health. He has been somebody that you just can't count on to stay healthy. And if he comes back and he looks good, I'm going to feel great about it. I'm also going to be holding my breath every next day because he might just pop up on the injury list again. He might just pop up on that Royals social media post that he's returned to the 15-day IL with some form of a shoulder injury or an elbow injury or a back injury. The back injury was the big thing last year. And even when he did get hurt in April, there wasn't a lot of concern from the Royals end. Now, was it the teres major? I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on that. But I believe that's what the injury was. It was a strain in that region, and the Royals did not seem overly concerned. They said, well, the mild strain, which is what they thought it was, is going to keep him out about a month, and maybe a little bit longer if you factor in the rehab outings. The grade 2 or the medium level strain, if you will, that was going to keep him out maybe until, the All-Star break. And then you think about the severity of it. If it gets to the worst end, the grade 3, then you're talking about missing the entire season. It does appear it's probably somewhere in the middle there. If things all go well in his next rehab outing, I'd imagine that we're going to be seeing Hunter Harvey sooner rather than later. Can he stay healthy for 2 months? I guess we will see on that. The stuff overall, though, that's what I've been impressed with. I was not expecting him to run it back up to 99, 98, feel good, still have the power splitter, and have a chance to rejoin this bullpen. I probably had said it before, but back in June, I just said we need to stop talking about Hunter Harvey returning because we just haven't heard enough. And he had a setback or two, and that always, can be frustrating because you go back to square one and you try to build your way back up. You're hoping Cole Reagans doesn't have any more setbacks and he'll be ready to go mid-August. There are some reinforcements coming. The big question is going to be, are the Royals still in contention when those guys return? Do you envision Hunter Harvey coming back sooner rather than later, or are you not convinced that he can stay healthy enough? And we've seen him throw his last pitch in Kansas City. Again, just let us know in the YouTube comments or let us know on Twitter. We're going to move on to our final break of the show. When we come back, we're going to preview a massive series against the Cleveland Guardians. That's coming up on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Want to tell you about Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO and giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB for half off on your first year. The Royals will be off today, but we are going to be looking ahead to this weekend's series against a division rival in the Cleveland Guardians. So it'll be Micah Wacha throwing in Game 1 for the Royals, and it will be Gavin Williams throwing for the Guardians in Game 1. Gavin Williams is 6-4 with a 3.54 ERA. Micah Wacha 4-9 with a 3.62 ERA. And as we've known all season long, just does not get any form of run support. Now, the Guardians will be playing today later on in about 40 minutes by the time I'm recording this. Probably when I post this, the game will already be underway. But they'll be wrapping up their series against Baltimore and then be flying directly to Kansas City. I'm assuming getting in, late tonight, but they'll have a full day before first pitch tomorrow at 7:10. So let's look at Gavin Williams, what he's done in his last handful of starts and what the Royals have done in their meetings against him. So on the year, he's thrown 104 in a third innings, 106 strikeouts with a whip that's just slightly above league average. In his last 7 starts, he's got a 3.00 ERA, 35 strikeouts in 39 innings, but 22 walks. So dealing with a little bit of command issues over his last 7 starts. In his last 15, a 3.33 ERA, so just a little bit higher, but not far off from his overall season numbers. 46 walks in those 78 in the third innings. He has struck out 80, though. The whip right around 1.39. He is coming off a start against the Athletics where he went 7 innings and allowed just 1 earned run. He struck out 11 and walked just 1. The start before that, he gave up 3 earned against the White Sox in 5 innings of work, struck out 5, but also walked 5. And then against Detroit, 6 shutout innings with 8 Ks and 3 walks. He did face Kansas City all the way back on opening day, I believe it was, because he had to jump. Actually, that was Ben Lively that started. So this was March 29th, might have been the series finale, I think it was. And he managed to go 5 innings, give up just 2 earned runs, struck out 2, and walked 1. So he is a strikeout pitcher, throws upper 90s, has some power stuff, but the Royals were able to put the ball in play more often than not in that outing. They just only had 4 hits and totaled 2 runs. He also was skipped, I believe, in that start, or when the Royals went to Cleveland. I want to say he was due to start in that series, and he ended up not starting when the Royals were in Cleveland. So they've only seen him 1 time, but they have seen Gavin Williams a handful of times over the last couple of years. But for the Royals, here is what some of their hitters have done against Gavin Williams in his career. Freddie Fermin is hitting .571 with a 1.142 OPS. Michael Garcia is just 1 for 13 in his career against Gavin Williams. Kyle Isbell's hitting .250 in 12 at-bats. Jonathan India is 2 for 2 with an OPS of 2,000. in his career. MJ Melendez is hitting 143 in 14 at-bats. Vinny Pasquantino is 0 for 4. Salvador Perez is 4 for 9 in his career with an OPS of 888. And then Bobby Witt Jr. does not have good numbers whatsoever. 133 in 15 at-bats against Gavin Williams. As for the Guardians against Michael Wacha, they have some pretty good familiarity with him. Jose Ramirez is hitting just 250 in 16 at-bats. Carlos Santana is hitting 154 in 13 at-bats. Austin Hedges is 0 for 9 in his career against Michael Wacha. David Fry is 2 for 6 in his career off of Wacha. And then Kyle Manzardo is 0 for 4. And we all know everything about Kyle Manzardo when he was last in Kansas City and how he burst onto the scene. So that is the matchup for Friday, and that game will be on Apple TV+. As for Saturday's game, a first pitch of 6:15, it'll be Tanner Bybee going up against Chris Bubic. This one will be nationally televised on Fox. As for Bybee, on the year, he is 6-9, with a 4.27 ERA and 116 innings pitched. He has struggled over his last 7 starts and hasn't been as efficient over his last 15. He's got a 5.13 ERA in his last 7 starts, struck out 37 and walked just 10. He is coming off of 7 innings of 3-run ball, gave up just 6 hits against the Orioles, but he went 5 2/3 against the White Sox, gave up just 2 earned on July 12th. Against the Astros, he gave up 4 runs and 4 2/3 innings of work. And then before that Houston start, he got roughed up a little bit against the Cubs. He went 4 innings, gave up 5 earned on 6 hits, walked 4, and struck out 5. So in the month of July, he does have a 5.91 ERA. Hasn't worked as deep into games, and the Royals do have some familiarity with him as well. Same goes with Gavin Williams, of course. And that should be the case because the Royals and Guardians, being division rivals, they play very often, and the Guardians have had the same rotation for about the last 3 to 4 years. So Bybee will take his 4.27 ERA to Saturday's game and square off with Chris Bubic, who is 8-6 with a 2.38 ERA. In his last outing, as we all know, in Miami, didn't work that deep into the game. People were concerned. The velocity was down. It came out after the game that he was just feeling a little bit under the weather. They didn't want to overwork him when the game was already 7-0 by the time that he had left. So a good outing for Chris Bubic right out of the All-Star break. That probably made up for his rough outing in the All-Star game, but still experiencing such a great season. And on Saturday, he'll be on national television, a chance to hopefully, fingers crossed, give the Royals a series win. As for the matchups for these two guys, the Royals have multiple players with more than 10 at-bats against Bybee in his career. Freddie Fermin is 3 for 10 with an OPS of 664. Adam Frazier is 1 for 3. Michael Garcia hitting 091 and 11 at-bats against Tanner Bybee. Jonathan India is 0 for 8. Kyle Isbell is hitting 083 and 12 at-bats. MJ Melendez 0 for 12. Vinny Pasquantino, a staggering 636 average with a 2.122 OPS, against Bybee. Salvador Perez is 0 for 15 in his career, and Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting 313 off of Bybee in his career. As for Bubic against the Guardians, Stephen Kwan is hitting 250 in 12 at-bats. You also have Jose Ramirez hitting 556 off of Bubic and 9 at-bats. Carlos Santana is 0 for 4. Brian Rocchio is 0 for 3. Austin Hedges 0 for 5. Kyle Manzardo 0 for 2. And then you've got, I believe, Angel Martinez hitting 1,000 in 3 at-bats against Chris Bubic. He was the one that really turned that start upside down in Cleveland for Bubic, which came out of nowhere because Martinez had just been called up to Cleveland the last time these two squared off in Cleveland, and he had one tremendous series. But that game will be 6:15 on Saturday, nationally televised on Fox. And then on Sunday, it'll be Noah Cameron going up against Joey Cantillo, who is 2-0 with a 3.91 ERA. Cameron is 4-4 with a 2.61 ERA. As for Cantillo, he has thrown 46 innings this year. Big strikeout pitcher, 59 Ks in those 46 innings. Does deal with a lot of base runners, though. 1.41 whip on the season. He has been much better of late. Through 5 innings of 1-run ball against Baltimore, 5 1/3 innings of 4-run ball against the White Sox, and then gave up only 3 and 4 innings of work against Houston. but that's more so because he was struggling before those three starts a lot. Had a 4.96 ERA in his last 15 outings. He just recently has been moved to the rotation, I believe, because he was thrown out of the bullpen the majority of the year for about the first couple of months. But since starting, he's been efficient. He was efficient against Baltimore, did walk 4, though. He was mostly efficient against the White Sox, and in his last 7 outings, he's got a 3.38 ERA. But in those 7 games, only 4 of them have been starts. So he's not going to work that deep into the game. Just recently got moved to the rotation, and the Royals will be throwing one of their better arms in Noah Cameron, who continues to excel in his rookie season with that 2.61 ERA. He's coming off of what I thought was such a professional outing where he gave up 4 in the second to Chicago, but managed to get through 6 innings. And now in his last 3, he's gone 7 innings, 6 2/3, and 6 innings. He's working deeper in the game, getting that pitch count up, and really becoming somebody the Royals can rely on. I know the Guardians have not faced Noah Cameron, I believe. Yeah, nobody in that lineup or on that roster has faced Cameron because he wasn't up the last time they squared off in Cleveland. But as for Cantillo, the Royals do have a couple of guys with very, very limited numbers against him. You've got Maikel Garcia's 1 for 2, Jonathan India's 1 for 1, MJ Melendez 0 for 2, Vinny's 0 for 1, Salvador Perez is 0 for 1, and Bobby Witt Jr. is 1 for 1. So not a lot to tell with both of these starters. So that's quite a toss-up of a start. This will be the first time for a lot of players in that lineup getting a true good look at Noah Cameron and then Joey Cantillo as well. So those will be the 3 games this weekend, a massive series between the Royals and the Guardians. And the last reminder, that first pitch is at 1:10 on Sunday. Then the Royals will be taking on the Braves after that to continue their homestand. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow it'll be a Mailbag Friday, so get your questions in before we record tomorrow morning. But until tomorrow, you take it easy, Kansas City.